I think you come to the Belgian to win it. Wabash always fight.
Hello and welcome to the Don Morel Show, your chance to hear the thoughts and comments of the head football coach of the Little Giant program. And Coach, we had a week off last week with the bye week on Saturday. 2 weeks ago, the long trip to Wisconsin-Platteville. And it was a tale of two halves, really, or at least a couple of quarters in that ball game. Little Giants jumped out to a 14-0 lead early in the first quarter, held that lead through the first quarter. Platteville responded as we knew they would and ended up tying the game, then took a lead. We tied it at 21, but then they were able to get a couple of big runs in the fourth quarter and ended up winning 42-21. You talked leading into that game how important it is to play a quality opponent like Wisconsin-Platteville. Obviously not happy with the loss, but were you happy with the way your team played?
I think it was a really good non-conference game for us to play, as was Butler last year, North Central the year before, Hampton, Sydney. I just believe those games get you better, and it's better than beating somebody 42-0. We got tremendous work done. We continue. You see some of our younger players develop. Carson Chad had a big touchdown. Disappointed, there's about 8 minutes to go in the third quarter and we're tied, and we just could not get over the hump. They were a little bigger, a little more physical as we expected, but we certainly had opportunities. I thought Brand Campbell played well in his first start at Wabash College.
Another player to mention that jumped out from the stats to me was Xavier Tyler. Coming into the game, they were holding teams to an average of minus 10 yards rushing. Xavier ends up with more than 100 yards rushing, 102 yards, I believe, and really ran the ball well, allowed that to really set up the passing game for Brand Campbell. And then adding to that, Brand not only with 2 touchdown passes, a really nice pass to Carson Chad, and then a great catch by Connor Thompson near the end zone, and he leaned in to get the touchdown. But Brand also showed his ability on the ground with that touchdown run in the first quarter on the naked bootleg around to the right side, and made a good solid run to get the touchdown, and proved he's going to be another one of those type of quarterbacks that can pass the ball well but can also be a threat on the ground.
Absolutely, he needs to, and while he's still kind of in his infancy, we've surrounded him with a really capable run game.
Defensively, as you mentioned, a big, strong team, but you had some highlights defensively as well, and it starts with Mike Holzclaw. 2 interceptions on the day. First time Little Giants have had 2 picks since Avery Epstein did it 2 years ago in a game against Ohio Wesleyan. Mike also had, I believe, 6 tackles overall. Gavin Rupert leads your team again in tackles. He now moves on to the top 25 career tackles list in Wabash College history. So even though the 42 points was probably a disappointment overall, against a team like that, number one, you knew it was going to be nearly an impossibility to pitch another shutout. But again, some good positives to take away from it.
I think you also need to consider we turned the ball over on a kickoff return in very windy conditions, but they started one drive on the 11-yard line, and then they started another. We attempted a fake punt, and to win that game, you got to try and do something. You just can't sit back and play checkers. But they had a touchdown drive in a short field there also.
You also ended up blocking one of their field goal attempts. So the defense still performing well, particularly in the red zone. You're right, they were back up against the goal line a couple of times, but overall a very solid performance all day. Were special teams probably, other than Brody Rucker, another good day kicking, had to be maybe just a little disappointed with the special teams effort with the kickoff and a couple of punts.
No, absolutely. And we believe in failure at this place, in the classroom and on the football field. We're not going to have another mistake like that. Again, we've made those corrections. And if we play in another win game, you really to do well in that game, you needed to do well when the wind was at your back. If you didn't, you were going to have a really hard time.
Not to sugarcoat or try and find positives in gray clouds, but those mistakes came in a non-conference game. So is the benefit get those out of the way in a non-conference game so that now as you reboot for conference play this week against Wooster, you've got those behind you?
Absolutely, and sometimes you win a game and you'll gloss over the mistakes. It's really when you lose that you really take a hard look at yourself and figure out how to get it fixed.
Talking about the punting game, someone we probably need to talk about at this point is Blake White. Was penciled to be the starting quarterback this year, also your top punter. We now know that he's done for the season, had shoulder surgery on Thursday. You just talk about what Blake has gone through his career and what he's meant to Wabash football and will continue to mean from the sidelines now.
The guy had surgery on a Thursday and he attended the lifting on a Sunday in a sling. Still a captain, consummate leader, really helping coach the young quarterbacks right now. And then this is also an example, a great example of trusting the process and not the outcome. If Blake solely believed that his merit would be playing in 10 games and winning a conference championship in a bell game, and if that didn't happen, he was a lost soul, he would be lost. But he has done all the right things, and he has a tremendous future in front of him, probably a little more driven into what law school he's going to go to now than he would have been if we were playing football. But Blake's going to be great.
That leads us into this week's game. Little Giants back on the road, part of our month-long road trip. Head to the College of Wooster on Saturday, back into the North Coast Athletic Conference. And on paper, this will be an interesting ball game. Last year, a win over Wooster, but again, it was a game that was a tale of different quarters. Little Giants jumped out to a 28-0 lead, seemed to be cruising to an easy victory, and Wooster came storming back, had cut it to a 7-point game late in the contest before a Brody Rucker field goal, and then a late touchdown by the Little Giants provided the eventual difference in the ball game before Wooster scored late. This year, Wooster jumped out to a big win in their first week, but they've struggled a little bit. They've been able to move the ball well, but haven't necessarily put up points and suffered a really tough loss on the road at Kenyon Saturday. Took a lead late in that ball game before Kenyon marched down on the final drive and scored with 6 seconds left to take away the victory in that game. So you know you're going to face a hungry Wooster team ready to bounce back from that loss at Kenyon. What have you seen on film, and what do you expect Saturday?
They're talented on offense, there's no doubt about it. They're also huge. They are huge up front. Quarterback returns, he gave us all kinds of fits last season. Talented at running back. They've got good wide receivers. So they're really scary, and you kind of wonder, I think they're capable of scoring 45 points any Saturday in this conference. Then typical Wooster defense. Frank does a great job over there of getting those guys lined up and getting them to play as hard as they can. So I think it's going to be a really good football game.
You mentioned Shandon Lee, their quarterback, second in the conference right now in passing, and has some great weapons. The number one weapon, Carter Wartzler, who is not only an outstanding wide receiver, he has been exceptional in the kick return game. He had a kick return for a touchdown against Wabash a couple of years ago. Saturday, he had over 300 yards of total offense in the game between his kick and punt returns and receiving yards. Is he somebody that you've really got to look to take away, or do you just focus on the offense in general and want to try and keep everything in front of you?
I think they've got really good balance where they stay with the run game, so you really can't overdo it on the wideout, but he is a special player. And again, I think the quarterback's a really good player. Defensively,
They've been able to generate some turnovers. It's been one of their specialties, particularly in their secondary with their two safeties. Their two safeties are also excellent tacklers. Does that put an emphasis on the run game on Saturday?
You need to block those safeties, or they do make a bunch of tackles. And then the tricky thing is they really give you multiple looks out of an odd front. So we have worked really hard now, it seems like for 10 days, to get ready for this football game, and I think we'll be ready.
What is it like to have 2 weeks from your last game heading back into conference play? You've already had one conference game behind you in the Ohio Wesleyan win, but now to get back into conference play, and as you kind of alluded to, have basically 2 weeks to really get ready for this game, to prepare for Wooster, and then to see what happened during the Kenyon game and take some things from that and fine-tune what you're doing in your game plan.
Well, it's been fantastic, and our team has handled it so well. A lot of lifting weights, a lot of running, and a lot of practice. And then it's a chance to get some new guys even polished up more so they're ready to get on the field.
That game Saturday, 1 o'clock. Links to both the live stats and the live broadcast from the College of Wooster are available on the Wabash Sports website on the football schedule at sports.wabash.edu. Coach, safe travels to Wooster, and best of luck on Saturday in the game.
Thank you.
You've been watching the Don Morel Show. It's your chance to hear the thoughts and comments of the head football coach of the Little Giant program. We'll talk to you next week.
I think you come to the Belgian to win it. Wabash always fight.